Hey there. Okay, we're rolling. I think we're probably good here. So, if you visit my channel, you probably know that I kind of do run myself through a solo role-playing game campaign using Edge of the Empire, the FFG Star Wars RPG. My goal here is simply, I'm sure as the screen's kind of making it obvious. My goal here is I want to run some old school Dungeons and Dragons solo, possibly with the idea I may occasionally bring in a guest player, and we'll simply kind of have like a one or maybe a two or three, maybe even a three-player, GM-less session. Still kind of using the exact same tools I'll be using even while I play solo, such as the ones that here on the screen. Sorry, this way, I guess. So I started gaming RPG stuff way back in 1987. I was 11 years old, the summer of 1987, and was introduced to Dungeons and Dragons by a friend of my little brother's, actually. So they would have been 9 at the time. And I remember me, my brother Sean, this other Sean who was introducing us, and our friend Tim, all kind of sitting alone. The four of us in the middle of my parents' garage on the concrete floor, with friend Sean, talking to us about Dungeons and Dragons. He ran. We didn't know what to do that day. He ran home. He's like, "I got an idea. We'll play a game, Dungeons and Dragons." We're like, "We'd never heard of it." So we went and got it. Came back and showed us the cover. Of course, is the red box books, right? And we were just, "Oh, really? We want to try this. This looks awesome." Just right away, right? And we sat down. We grabbed some paper and pencils, and he had some dice with him and everything. And we sat down in the middle of my parents' garage, just these little kids, and we rolled up a bunch of characters. I don't remember much about the characters. I don't remember too much about what else happened that session, that first experience with Dungeons and Dragons. But I do remember we fought a bunch of skeletons, and he was kind of like drawing them as like little circles or whatever, or on a piece of paper. We were like rolling dice, killing animated skeletons, having a good time doing it. And we didn't play Dungeons and Dragons again until the following summer. By that point, I found a copy of my own red box in a store in the mall there. We lived in Pickering, Ontario, and the mall there many years ago had a hobby store called Leisure World. It was a chain. It was kind of this, like, it had the worst 80s kind of carpet. I remember it was always kind of seemed like just a little dirty, but it had all kinds of games in it. And I started with Dungeons and Dragons, the red box basic set, which came with, of course, the player and the Dungeon Master's manual, as well as B12 Queen's Harvest, which we ended up playing a little bit of. But fast forward here, I have not played this version of Dungeons and Dragons in 20-some years, I'm thinking. I remember giving it a shot, playing around with it a little bit, probably right around, or maybe a little before D&D 3rd edition came out. As you could probably guess from all the photo of my books here, we bought, my brother Sean and I, we bought all of the sets, like all 5 of the box sets. We played the crap out of that game up until we started playing other stuff, and we would still come back to it until we kind of hit Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. 2nd edition is what we got introduced to, and we played that for a lot of years. And we kind of got away from basic D&D. My goal here was to kind of return to that old school feel. Several months ago, I dropped out of my Sunday night Dungeons and Dragons group. We played other games too. I ran a few of them myself, but our core game really was around D&D 5th edition. And I just kind of got tired of the feel of 5th edition and the murder hobo aspect to it. Some of the guys maybe kind of occasionally kind of played it like they were playing a video game. I got really sick and tired of the style of game that comes with 5th edition. It's a great game. It's probably the best version of Dungeons and Dragons, in a sense. Old school BECMI, Basic, Expert, Companion, Master, Immortal. Brings things back a little closer to the roots of Dungeons and Dragons, and it was harder. It required a lot more rulings by the game master. It had a lot of flavor for what I now consider old school gaming. Modern gaming now has a much different feel to it. It's meant to have less downtime. It's meant to kind of push things ahead. It's meant to be less player character. It's meant to kill the player characters less. D&D 5th edition, it is not impossible to die. We've had it happen. I've even seen it TPK, been involved in one. But it's really hard to die otherwise, compared to old school D&D, right? You rolled up a character. If you made it to 2nd level, you were lucky. When I was a kid and into my teens running games, I had a stack of D&D characters that I called my dead pile, and it was just all player characters that were in my campaigns. I've always been the game master, dungeon master, and I prefer that. Always just kind of kept these as a stack. I wish I still had them. I scrapped all of the old maps and character sheets and everything decades ago. Probably 25 years ago at least, maybe even 30 years ago, something like, whatever the case, it was a long time ago. I got rid of all that stuff. So my goal here is kind of fairly simple. I want to run a more old school feel, using old school rules, specifically the Dungeons and Dragons Basic, Expert, etc. sets. We're going to start with using the basic sets mixed in with some of the expert stuff in the expert book, just in part because this also had, the expert book had a better list of excuse me, a better list of equipment and weapons and that kind of thing, whereas the basic game was much more simple in its weapons, or in its gear list. I wanted more access to the more equipment, so we're basically going to kind of start off running through basic and expert, using basic and expert stuff. I'm not planning on using the official modules. I considered that. I really would love to run one of the ones that are buried there. You can kind of see that's Drums on Fire Mountain, one of my favorite modules from the old days. I would love to run through that. I'm not going to do that right now, though. I'm going to kind of leave some of that stuff. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to be setting this up as a bit of a hex crawl. A bit of a hex crawl campaign. I used to run these when I was a teenager. We just get hex graph paper out, and the guys would just start exploring, and we'd fill out the world. We essentially kind of created our own campaign setting as we were going. I didn't have any particular way to generate the hexes, so I just kind of made it up as I went along. Yeah, the road goes off for you follow it for 3 days and come to another small town. There's a fork in the road, one heading north, one heading south, that kind of thing, right? So I want to do something somewhat similar here. So I've invested in a few tools. But still, really, so the main character here, we're going to have multiple player characters as we go on, basically, and I'll be running them all solitaire style. But the main character who will start things out, I'll be creating him on the screen here. And the idea is he's going to arrive in a small seaside town from the northern reaches, a different area of the world. And he's here for, just as the campaign actually is being called in Fame, Fortune, and the hell they call it again? For Fame and Fortune, my D&D BECMI Solitaire campaign. For Fame and Fortune. He arrives on the shores of whatever this place is going to be called. We're not sure yet. From a completely different area. So he's looking for, looking for adventure. Essentially, he's a new adventurer looking to make his way in the world and earn some gold. The campaign is meant to be kind of an old school hex crawl in terms of a hex crawl in terms of the world, and we're gonna basically be building out the campaign as I go along. Like basically, the campaign setting will be built as I kind of explore it. The hex crawl playstyle is kind of intended to flesh out that campaign, right? This main player character will recruit other player characters to join him on his adventures. I will create those characters as they are recruited. Some of them may die. Maybe even the first character that I create will die. I don't know. Old school D&D was really hard on characters. You hit 0 hit points, you were dead. Somebody, a monster just took your head off. A monster just, or an enemy just ran you through the heart. You were dead. There was no coming back after you hit 0 hit points. You were just dead. So on occasion, like I said, I may invite others. I would like to invite my brother. If I could dig up some of my old RPG buddies to kind of join in for a session or two or something like that, would be kind of fun. I still keep in contact with some of the old guys that I played with way back when. Those players, if they are invited, will have their own characters, of course, and I'll be using a lot of different things here. So I'm going to be using Mythic Game Master Emulator, 2nd edition, because I like it, and it works for me in terms of solitaire campaign. So I've got like a Chromebook set up here for looking at notes in my Google Drive, as well as for possibly recording a few more as I kind of go along here. So I'm not really going to use the traditional scene structure of Mythic. I'd like to keep this a little more open and old school. I used to start a lot of sessions with, all right, what do you guys want to do? And maybe that's kind of where we go. And we're just going to continue to let things move and kind of, I'll explore things in an old school way. But I don't want scenes. I don't want kind of that style of Mythic. However, we will be tracking threads because I think these characters need to have something kind of motivating them. And some interlinked stories, possibly that'll happen. So, that I've got a copy of DM Yourself. I've got a bunch of other things here that I might make use of. I'll use. I grabbed a PDF copy of Scarlet Heroes, which has got some great tables for solitaire play. I guess also non-solitaire play, and I've also got some other solo or GM aid kind of utilities like Oon, which I use in my Edge of the Empire campaign along with Mythic. That's great for helping to create NPCs on the fly. So, how am I going to make this work? So, you'll probably know Roll20. I've started filling things out. So, I've got my scenes. Well, I guess maybe we are going to use scenes because I started to kind of do this, but then I'm thinking, no, I don't know if I want to do scenes. So this might just go away. We do have a chaos factor, which will start at 5. Let me rethink the scene thing. And then we got our adventure list. Now this is just kind of an image I took. I just captured it and uploaded it. And that way I can it's just kind of on the map layer of this Roll20 campaign here. And that way I can just kind of go in text, create a text box, blah, 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 whatever, right? I can type in, track these things, no problem. We got our NPCs list, characters list here. We got our threads list here. I think I know why I created this. I did this one here. I did have the idea of doing scenes. Maybe I will kind of go with that a little bit, but for the most part, what I want to do is the old school feel. But this is also meant to kind of help track some of what's going on. The scenes or whatever will possibly help to do that. And I picked up a copy of this hex game, whatever. I've already kind of tossed some of it because some of it is very specific to a type of thing it's doing. I don't need to use, but I do like the hexes, and that's what I was looking for, something to create my map. and it gives me copies and things to work with. And then we go over here to the map itself, and this thing is rather large. I'm just going to zoom out. So it starts out with a really big map, and I'm going to essentially kind of start this using this to create the map. Now the hexes line up really well, and what I'm going to do is figure out. I think we're going to have some, what's left of it. What's an ocean port here, and then we'll kind of build things out. I've set a scale at 5 kilometers to a hex. For people who don't know kilometers, that's 2.4 kilometers to a mile. So it's kind of about the equivalent of a mile. Not quite, but close. And we're also, the other thing I wanted to kind of note here is, so there's all kinds of little cool tables here that this thing has. I've got a lot of assets already in here, things I've uploaded, things I've purchased, whatever. All kinds of different fun stuff here. My library, we got our animated spell effects too, which might be kind of handy at times. The first thing I want to do here is create a character, and we're going to create characters as they go. We're going to add a character. Buddy here can't come. This thing always generates with a name. We're going to call him TBA for now. And we're going to kind of go right into, creating this character. So, if we pull up our player's manual, there is a section for how to create characters, and the old way was pretty quick. Making up a new character. 3d6. You don't get to choose where. What are the chances this thing will let me auto roll? Probably not. Nope. Alright, so let's bring up our dice. And the old way of doing it is you didn't get to choose where those stats went to. So, rolling strength. We got a whopping 12. That's not bad. Intelligence. So, I mean, he could be a fighter. Oh yeah, and also unlike new school, newer kind of methods. And this started, I remember, in officially, I think, in AD&D 2nd edition as an optional rule. In the old days, you just rolled 3d6 for your stats. There was no 4d6 and drop the lowest. So we're going to do intelligence. 16. Okay, well, so far, I mean, he could be a wizard too. These are actually decent stats so far. Okay, we'll do wisdom. 11. Probably not a cleric, although he could be. Dexterity. 16. Maybe a rogue. Or a thief. Sorry. Back in the old days, it was actually called a thief. Constitution. 7. Not so great. And for charisma. 12. Actually, that's not bad. Those are pretty decent stats. So we're gonna kind of round this out here. He's level 1. I don't know why this is in multiple places here. Skills we don't have to worry about. Our class stuff, sure. Combat, yeah, cool. Actually, there's some neat stuff in this. I haven't really looked at this character sheet before, so I installed it here, chose it, and I wasn't really sure what to expect out of it. But it looks like it's got some good stuff. So, I'm thinking let's go with a thief. Let's make a thief. Or do we look at something maybe like an elf or a dwarf? What was our... So, for a dwarf, he's not going to make a dwarf. He needs a strength score of 13 or more. Doesn't work. For an elf... For the prime requisite here, we need... They got 2 prime requisites. So, strength and intelligence. For If an elf has a score of 13 or more in both ability scores, the character gains a 5% bonus to experience. Well, we're close there. What do we got here again for Dwarf? Dwarf's PR is strength. It doesn't require. It's preferable he's got a strength of 13. Now I can do an elf and bump that a little bit. Halfling, also 2 prime requisites of strength and dexterity. Again, he's pretty close on both here. But I'm thinking, I've always kind of preferred humans, and I've always liked playing thieves. So we're going to make him. I think one of these is supposed to be race, and one of these is supposed to be class. Oh, I think I'm understanding what this is. There is no race, of course, in this. Thief, and I think it's if he takes on additional class. I can't remember whether you could. I honestly cannot remember if you can multi-class in old school D&D. Okay, let's see here. We've got to do a little bit more work on this character. So as a thief, his prime is dexterity. It's good that he's smart too. Now we can modify this a little bit. I'd like to bring his dex up, and you can't take it from Constitution or Charisma. It has to be from Strength, Intelligence, or Wisdom. So I can drop by 2 and increase by 1. Okay, so that will make our guy just that little bit more dexterous. I think I'll do that again. We'll drop by 2 for intelligence and bring his dexterity up for 1. He's still reasonably intelligent. He's just not, in the 90th percentile or whatever. Okay, we have chosen our class, exchanged ability score, rolled ability scores, chosen our class, exchanged ability scores so that we could bump up our prime requisite here. Roll for hit points. So thieves have a whopping 1d4 hit points. You do not start with max. You just start 3. Okay, so where's hit points on here? Okay. So hit points of 3. That's what we're working with. He takes 1 good hit. He's dead. Let's see here. He does not have a constitution. Actually, with that, his constitution, that's pretty bad, actually. He's actually losing a hit point, I believe, off of that. Yeah, actually, that means he starts with a whopping... Alright, that means we gotta do the calculation. He's got 2 hit points, actually. Only 2. Okay. Roll for hit points, and which kind of suck. 2 hit points is basically like a 1 hit and he's toast. He's gonna need some friends pretty quickly, I think. Roll for money. So money, we start with our gold coin. So let's get to our. I'm going to assume it's under inventory. Yep. Coin at home or else, or coin carried is what we're going to have here. So we need to roll. So in this, the old school, everybody starts with the same. It's 3d6 times 10. And he's going to end up with starting with 140 gold. He has clothing, but anything else he needs stuff. We have inventory locations. That's okay. That's kind of cool. Our inventory, we need to be concerned about here. So what do we got here? Worn. So he'll need to buy some equipment, and then we'll deal with armor class. But for now, let's figure out what his name is. So, Scarlet Heroes, I'm just going to take a look at here. Um, so Scarlet Heroes, I believe, has a bunch of tables for names. No? I thought it did have names. Oh, I know what we're looking for. It does not. One sec. There we go. Making use of a little bit of 5th edition. Xanathar's Guide to Everything. Xanathar's Guide to Everything absolutely has lists of names that we can take. So I want something kind of fun here. Just kind of go looking here. Human names. What kind of Celtic? Maybe. German, perhaps German. English. No. Greek. What do you want? Norse. He's coming from the Northlands. Let's give him a Norse name. So I'm rolling a percentile on this. 31. Male. Eggle. And since we did this, Eggle of the Northern Reaches. There we go. We have a character name. Alright, now, that kind of helps figure out our first character here, who's going to be arriving, and he will be learning what's going on as we all kind of go along from here as well. I don't even know whether I can get rid of that now. Yes, I can. Okay, something just kind of started annoying me. So we need equipment. This will give us our equipment, uses, whatever, various different things. But I'm probably going to kind of shift here. Let's come here, because this is what I want to do. We need to start setting this up. Let's set up the map a little bit. Now this is cool, they kind of lock, so we know this is the ocean. I'm going to kind of create just a bit of an ocean. Coastline, I suppose, is what I'm trying to do here. All right. Okay, so if I continue to kind of fill that in, this is essentially our entrance. Now this does not necessarily mean this is all the coast and everything else is land. Oops. We're going to just continue to just fill things out a little bit. Actually, I should be doing this on the map layer, not on the token layer. I'll fix that here in a sec. Use that. Okay, let's take all of this, we'll shift this over to the map layer, as it should be. And shift here. Okay, what do we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's decide where our our town is going to be. I'm going to roll a d8 and decide between kind of 1 through 8. I think this is a good way to kind of start. Dice, d8. 5. Okay, since it's not a city, we don't really have a town. We're just going to use the village one. So 5 is going to put it here. And we need, I think, it's a village. We need a village name. Oh, cool. I can know all this. Use that village name. Back to Xanathar's Guide to Everything. I'm pretty sure there's lists of all kinds of lists of names and such here that we could potentially use. If not, I will check Scarlet Heroes. Nope, this is all the names of people of different styles. Okay, over to Scarlet Heroes. Now, looking for no city names. Oh, name. Oh, there are character names and such here. Alright, tell you what, we'll come back to this next time, or in a short while. Maybe I'll kind of develop a little bit of this myself here. And we'll go from there. So yeah, I think I'll just kind of close things out here, and we'll come back to this next time.